Okay, this is my second segment of Monog 2. In this segment, I just like to say what I think about the game. In order for there to be something going on in the background as I do so, I'm going to build a rigging. You don't have to build a rigging in this game. In fact, it isn't a very good use of time in general. It's just that I need to have something going on in the background as I say things. So I really like this game. It's not very clear why exactly, but because I really like this game, I want to do a very good job playing it. And I'm going to be very thorough. That kind of relates back to the rigging thing, in that building a rigging, although unnecessary, is something that you might do by tradition. Just as when you play Monog, you explore Takoro first before you go help Maku. Because in Monog, the way that the content was released periodically, you could explore Takoro before you could, chronologically, before you could talk to Maku. There was a period of a couple months or so where Program 2 had been released, but Program 3 had not yet been released. So hopefully, because I like this game so much, I won't make some of the dumb mistakes that I made when I did Monog, that I did when I made that silly Paraka animations video that I did earlier today. Make sure there's no cropping issues, no cursor misalignment issues, or audio issues. And hopefully my gameplay performance will be very good. So just checking here, for a rigging I need 10 rope and 5 nets and 20 bamboo wood. So only 20 bamboo wood. Let me see how much bamboo wood I already have. 24, so I don't need any more bamboo. So, first thing, how do you play this game? Well, it's very simple. You download it off the Biomedia Project. Just go to www.biomediaproject.com. And you can download it. Now, this game has a behavior built in that it will copy what you do to your clipboard. And then when you close the game, we'll paste whatever it copied to the clipboard into a status file. This behavior is very much like how a virus works, or how spyware would work, or some sort of keystroke tracker would work. And so Chrome, for example, Google Chrome, when you try to download it, will flag it and say this is has malicious script in it, because it has something in there that kind of looks and smells like a malicious script, but all it's doing is it's saving your progress in Monog 2. Similarly, Windows Defender will also say that there's a malicious script, and Norton Antivirus by Symmetic Corp will also say that there's a malicious script. So, and they have a tendency to delete the malicious script, and what that does is it makes it so that it does not copy your results at the end into the status file. And you have to do that after you're done with your session. I've made it such that I managed to get that in there. I don't have my antivirus software installed on this right now, and it made it so that Windows Defender does not scan the location where this is located. But this game is completely and utterly safe to play. The reason why there's a virus in there has to do with the autosave feature. It looks a lot like a virus. It's not a virus. Just to make that clear. And then you just play it. It requires Adobe Flash Player. Now, Adobe wants to get rid of Flash Player, and apparently there's some browsing security issues that involved in the Flash Player in browser. I'm not super educated on that. I'm a more esoteric technical person. Not very practical. So I don't know why and what exactly those are, but it might not be possible to download or install Adobe Flash after 2020. I know you're not going to be able to run it in your browser at the end of 2020. I believe Microsoft Edge is discontinuing it after New Year's Eve. December 23rd, they're going to update Edge and make Flash no longer compatible. Chrome says sometime in December, but they don't say when in December, which was kind of embarrassing for me commentating on some previous video. Anyway, so I don't know what the history of what the future of Flash is going to be. I believe today, while recording this, you can still download and install Flash. And I have archived 2 Adobe Flash install files, which are the spreadsheet is worth their weight in gold, but it's digital, so it doesn't weigh anything. So by saying that, it would mean it's worth nothing. 2 install files that are worth, if you were to, however many entries on the blockchain it would take to store the amount of information that it takes to store them. Anyway, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be replacement programs created to run run programs that previously required Adobe Flash. So I don't know, I wouldn't be so worried about the obsolescence of Flash making it so you cannot play download games. However, I am very much worried about the obsolescence of Flash affecting browser games. But as far as playing Monog 2, I don't think it's going to be probably just won't be able to play Monog 2 in browser anymore. Okay, so after that, the canonicity of this game. Bionicle fans have kind of colloquially developed a hierarchy of canonicity, which doesn't really have any logic behind it. It's just kind of the accepted notion. And that is that, above all else, what establishes the canon is the style guide, which is not a piece of media that was available to the fans at the time it was relevant. So that's kind of weird. But because it comes directly from the Bionicle story team as their initial plan, that tends to be the what takes the most precedence when it comes to canon is the style guide. Beyond this, apart from the style guide, the next level down is which everything written in there is canon so long as it does not disagree with the style guide, are the novels. And there is some differentiation within the novels. The movie novelizations, those are novelizations of scripts not written by the Bionicle story team, and so they take less precedence over other novels. And then past the novels is the comics, and then beyond the comics is the games and web animations. And so I would think, okay, so whatever is in the game that does not conflict with material presented in novels or comics or the style guide would then be canon. So names of characters would be canon. The story of Gali traveling around the little island learning skills to learn how to play Koli better, and then gets good at Koli and then plays Koli. Well, we already know she won the Koli tournament because that was in a higher precedence piece of media that was a movie. Is all canon. So what this game contributes, would contribute to canon, that is, stuff that has in it that's not in other media, that does not conflict with other media, would be this story of Holly traveling around Matanui and learning Koli. Mask of Light doesn't really say much about why Holly is such a good Koli player. You just kind of assume that she's some good Koli player from Gakoro that had some sort of thing for Joller. But this game brings up the story that no, she was just the assistant flax maker walking around doing what I'm doing now and harvesting harakiki plants. Right. Harakiki plants, or harakeki plants, and kori shells, and giving them to the flax maker, and to make flax, which we'll meet her in a second. And then she was suddenly the responsibility was thrust upon her to compete in the Koli tournament. If you could call that a responsibility, she seems to have taken it as one. Just kind of out of the blue. So the Coley maker's name is Amaya. I mean, not the Coley maker, the flax maker. So it contributes this extra story of Holly. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, how I think of it, because the story does not conflict with other media, I presume it's canon. And the story explains some things, such as why exactly Holly was named the new chronicler after Takua became a Toa. And I would believe following Takua down into, or Takanuva at that point, down into Makuda's lair and then coming back out to report a message from Takanuva from Makuda's lair isn't really sufficient for her to be now named the new chronicler. However, that's what Mask of Light seems to imply. She traveled along around Matanui eventually in the same way that Takua used to. And for some reason, Kapura doesn't count for reasons I can't explain. Why isn't Kapura the chronicler? I guess he just isn't very good at writing or something. So, in order to be, basically the precedent that Manaag set was that in order to be the chronicler, you had to first be a protagonist in a game. So, by Holly being a protagonist in this game, she shows that she has the same, qualifications for chronicler as Takua had, or at least close enough, right? You can never find another Takua, but, you know, she was the next closest because she was a protagonist in a game. And that explains why she's for some reason randomly named the chronicler at the end, even though all she did was win at Coley and follow Takanuva down into Makuda's lair. There's much more to the story, and that is what's presented here. So it makes sense that that story would be canon. Now, after Holly wins the Coley tournament, there's additional material you do to complete the game. And judging this material, if you kind of look at it, doesn't really seem like, in my gut, something that would be canon. It doesn't really conflict that much with other media, besides in that, if it were true, I talk about the charms and the crystals, you would have heard of it in other media. So it conflicts sort of in that way. If something is super important that's omitted, that you wouldn't think it would be omitted, then there is some sort of conflict. So, although that doesn't really conflict with other media directly, it doesn't really seem like something that you would think would be canon. It's very gameplay mechanic-y. And it doesn't really make a whole lot of logical sense. It's just something to build the atmosphere with, essentially. So this game also has artwork. It has visual depictions of the villages. And most of this artwork is very similar to that depicted in Manaag. However, the details are, like the style of Gakoro is very similar to that of Manaag. However, there are some raised areas. But the specifics of its layout are slightly different. There's ways to kind of squeeze the layouts together to try to explain how they're the same. But you don't see the Takara pit like you did in the original Manaag. So they definitely, no matter what, you can't make them the same. And the gate to Gakoro looks a whole lot different as well. Likoro has huts built into the trees, right? That's something that you wouldn't think would ever happen in Likoro. You would think all of the Likoro huts would be those beehive huts. You wouldn't think they'd be built in. Also, the dwelling places in Kokoro look a whole lot different in this game than they did in Manaag. So both of these two things are sort of semi-canon, non-canon pieces of media because they are not novels or comics, they are games. And so, when it comes to Manaag or Manaag 2, they both are the same level on the precedence. However, fans tend to hold Manaag in higher regard than Manaag 2, and so there's a tendency, at least in my mind, to adapt the appearances presented in Manaag over the ones presented in Manaag 2. Especially since the ones in Manaag were based off of the alpha versions in The Legend of Matanui, which was supposed to decide that kind of thing, according to somebody. I don't know how much that matters. There's more preponderance of witnesses to Manaag's depiction due to the discovery of The Legend of Matanui. So the locations, the way they're depicted in this game, they're the right style of Monog, but they aren't as canon, I would suppose, at least in my opinion, as the ones depicted in Monog. Also, this game names characters that are not named in Monog or named in any other media. For example, Amaya, right? You don't see that name anywhere. But all these media depict a whole bunch of masses of unnamed villagers throughout Matanui, right? There's a bunch of Gamatora, but not all of them are named. And so we presume, okay, we have all these names, they don't conflict with other media, and they seem like perfectly fine names. I presume that these names are canon. Now I would think, yeah, sure, the names are canon. However, BSO1 for some reason says they're not. Now BSO1, is written by Swert and Dor. Okay, it's written by Bionicle fans. It's the best kind of I know of way to tell what exactly the fan's opinion is aggregated about something being canon or not. You just kind of look on BSO1. However, BSO1's not the end-all, be-all, right? And I find it kind of weird that they say, okay, the names aren't canon. But apparently, BSO1 says the names aren't. But this thing does contribute non-conflicting. This game contributes a lot of non-conflicting names. So I got through how you play it. I got through the canonicity of it. What is it? Well, it's a lot like Duck Life, but Bionicle. And instead of actually just training the skills and then watching them play out, you actually have to play the colon. So it's a lot more involved, and a lot more fun. But if you know what Duck Life is, that's basic. That this game is very similar in concept. So there's a bunch of obnoxious mini games, which in order to get a noticeable effect of improvement in your character's capabilities, you have to play them a lot. It's very, what they would say, grindy. So it's extremely grindy minigame where you just play minigames over and over again for hours. In order to have a character that's capable enough for you to be able to use it to win in Koli against the hardest ones being Hyuki and Hafu. Now, I really like this concept because it's, good. It's like life. I like to try hard at something and keep doing it until eventually see the slow progression until eventually I overcome. But it's not a lot of people don't. Those people aren't good people, no. I'm just kidding. And it makes the game not very conducive to Let's Playing. Because, grindy games aren't very conducive to Let's Playing. But I have a lot of fun with it, and I'll try to have as much fun with it this time as possible. So I think my goal is 500 flax, right? Because 5 flax per string, and I need 100 strings. Let's see, I'm at 38 flax, so I'm not even at the first 100 flax yet. But that's what it is. And as you travel through Matanui to learn these skills, you explore new places. And you see mysterious things and you wonder what they are. And you find these charms, and you find these places with these weird doors where you put the charms. The game has, and coupled with the background music, this game has sort of this mysterious, sort of entering the unknown sort of feel throughout. As you grind through these minigames. And some of these minigames cost some widgets in order to complete, because you need the raw materials to play them, and so there's some brokering you have to do as well. So there's some level of escapism with it, in that if you're not very good at sports, and at least you can be good at sports in this game, right? It's kind of like playing Monopoly. If I can't get rich in real life, at least I can get rich in Monopoly, right? If I can't, train, go to practice, and get good at playing football, at least I can train in this game and get good at Koli in the game. This kind of contributes to some of the addictiveness of the game. To people who are into this kind of thing, some people just no. The ending of this game is terrible. We'll get to the ending when we get to the ending, but it is very unrewarding for the amount of work you have to do to get there. Let's make some flax. So I got 100 flax, so I'm 1/5 of the way there. So what makes this game good and what makes this game bad? So the first thing I talk about when it comes to games is kind of the escapistness of the game, because it's the thing it's my soapbox. It's what I'm most fascinated with. And I've already sort of started talking about this. I said this game has this kind of sports escapism to it. That it's like, you can, it generates daydreams of getting good at sports, even if you don't actually get good at sports. I highly recommend you just, pick something physical and get good at it, and not play Monog 2. And again, like I said, that's very similar to, it's like a life goal escapism. So it's similar to playing Monopoly, right? I can't get rich in real life, but at least I can get rich in Monopoly during the 1930s. It doesn't have any really of the conventional escapism, the first thing you think of when you think of that term, that is the whole, you have a plot, or you have fascinating situations that the characters get in that you want to imagine yourself in and what you would do. It doesn't have anything really of that nature to it. So, no, as far as the plot's concerned, there really isn't anything to the plot. You just play Coley and train Coley. And, yeah, that's basically it. There really is no plot. So, it does have, quality of escapism, it's like a 3 out of 10, right? It doesn't have the conventional escapism you expect, but it does have some sort, in its nature. And the second thing I care a lot about in games is the atmosphere. Like, what does the game sort of feel like? What is the mood of it? And this game, as I said, is very kind of mysterious feeling. It has mysterious background music. You hike down these trails and you go into different environments, and you're wondering what exactly you'll encounter next on the next screen. At least at first, and then it gets tedious. But at first, it's like, what's the next screen going to be? Especially on dial-up, where it's like it loads screens slowly. So it has sort of builds anticipation of what's going to be on that next screen. You can see the loading screens that I'm playing this now, because I'm not playing it on a very fast hard drive. I'm playing it on my SSD, and not an HDD, a hard disk instead of an SSD. Because I'm too lazy to move all the files over onto my SSD, which I do have and I'm not using. So that's why you see loading screens in between each scene. And there's a lot of mysterious locations where it's like, I wonder what this does. And these places where you pick up the crystals, each representing a principle of each Koro. And these places are kind of artistically designed in a way that's kind of eerie and mysterious. That's something I didn't mention in my canon discussion, was the crystals. I mean, not the crystals, the principles. Right, so the principles of each Koro is something brought up in this game that isn't in any other media. And I don't know, they're kind of not really principles, they're just kind of fancy sounding words. What's the principle of prosperity? Prosperity is a result of something, right? You cannot do prosperity. You can only bring about prosperity, and only do so in a way that's complicit in how others are also doing it. So I don't know what that's all about. But there's the principle of faith, the principle of peace. There's actually things you can actually do. The principle of, courage. Right, that is something you can do. So, principle of purity. Well, it's an interesting thing to say. Especially because it's the Gakoro principle. Those are stuff that's in here. It doesn't really conflict with any other media, but it's kind of weird and out of place, and you'd think if it did exist, that it would be in other media. So it's confliction by omission. So as well as its atmosphere and its feel, it's pretty 3 out of 10. The reason why I'm giving it such a low score is there's no real suspense to it. other than the setting. The only suspense is in the setting. So there isn't any suspense in the plot. There isn't any, like, doesn't build any sort of tension in anything else besides the setting. So that segues to the setting. The setting is like a 9 out of 10. It's the island of Matanui. You can never go wrong with it. Lots of different environments, lots of different art you can put on, lots of different scenarios you can see the character walk through. So very good on the setting. The mechanics. Oh dear. It's just a point-and-click adventure with the most, like, hyperspace... What's that, what's the term? Hammer space? There's also another one where it's, like, a container that's, like, a pocket dimension. It's hyperspace something. Holly carried around this little seaweed purse, and in this seaweed purse, she can carry around hundreds of collie balls, hundreds of widgets, hundreds of quarry shells, a boat rigging. Bionicle is famous for hammer spacing all over the place. Like, Mask of Light was just did hammer space to just the greatest extent you could. Like, with no shame, just like the stereotype of it. Of course, Monog was like that too, but at least you couldn't, like... Oh, it's Hyperspace Arsenal, that's what it is. At least in Monog, though, you couldn't really see his hyperspace arsenal on his body. Holly's bag of holding is, like, right there, just, like, swinging around as she walks, this little seaweed bag, carrying hundreds of collie balls. So it's just point and click with a lot of hyperspace arsenal, point and click collie, and lots of point and click mini games, which are very grindy and obnoxious, and you have to play them a lot to see any noticeable effect. So, I like the mechanics. I give them like a 6 or 7 out of 10 because they're bad, or because they make you grind, because they make you do work, because they would make somebody give up, and then if you don't give up, then you win. Like, if you beat them, right? As my rant I did when doing the Legend of Matanui beta during Tahu's level, specifically area Ta 05. Right, I like games that are hard, push me to the breaking point, to make me want to give up, make me frustrated. Because if it makes me frustrated, then it might make other people who are also playing frustrated, such that those other people who are playing give up. And then I just don't give up, and then I do more than they did. Stupid. What about the characters? Well, there are a lot of characters, and they do have some sort of a personality. We're going to talk to all the characters in Gakor on the third segment, which is the second segment after this. I'm not going to do any conversations yet in this one. And characters from different villages have different kind of personalities. And so, there's characters, but this is not a game you really play for the characters. To put another random arbitrary out of 10 score, the characters are like a 5 out of 10. There are characters. They are named. Nixie is really rude. I forgot her name already. Like, Amaya is really friendly. But, she expects you to do work for her. The Komatorn are very antisocial, as usual. So you get kind of hit on. Yes, for some reason Templar Studios thinks it's a good idea to have like air race style love in a population that has a 5-to-1 men to woman ratio. I don't know who thought that that kind of thing would be a good idea. And some people are like, well, just don't make it a 5-to-1, like, gender ratio thing. And it's like, well, just don't put romance in it. And that's about it. Most of the reason why I like this game so much is probably some sort of quote-unquote nostalgic thing. And some of it is why a lot of people don't like it. I mean, this is not a very popular Bionicle game. And if you tend to like something and other people don't like it, then you try to like, it's like politics. It's like you take a more extreme stance because for some reason in your attempt to argue with others with the opposite stance, you just take more extreme stances because you find it easier to defend more extreme stances, or you just kind of get frustrated with disagreement. So because people don't like certain aspects of this game, such as how much you have to play the minigames to get good enough to beat Huki and Coley, because people don't like that, that makes me like it more. And convince myself that I like it more. So here goes this Let's Play. I'll try to not make any mistakes like I did in Vanog. I didn't really care about Vanog. I just like doing this just to check the box to get it over with, because this is just not a very good game and not a very good Let's Play game. This game I really do care about. And we'll try to make it as watchable as possible. So, as you'll notice here, right, when I'm making this rigging, I'm not talking to many of the other, like having conversations with the Matoran. That's because I want to make that its own separate episode. So the episodes are very very self-contained. So if you don't want to watch me make a rigging, you can just skip this one, right? So when I train Coley, or I train Coley's skills like I train Stanima, I'll train Stanima, all my Stanima training will all be in one episode, just be like all Stanima training. So if you don't want to watch the Stanima training, you just don't watch that one. And don't like mix some of these long training sessions with anything else. So I have it all planned out. I do this episode where I make a rigging. Afterwards, I explore Gakoro, do some speed training, maybe just 5 points, and play Coley with Anupu and Tepu. Finish that, and that's another episode, right? Then I go to Anukoro, talk with the characters, and explore. That's another episode. Then I train Stanima. That's all just one episode. Then I go to Kokoro, train a little. Then I go back and train Speed. That's just one episode. Then I go to Kokoro, go talk to Hermit, train a little willpower. It's not a very useful skill, so you don't train a lot of it. Go get the Crystal of Peace because I don't want to go into the Drifts more times than I have to. Talk to and interact as much as I can with the Matoran of Kokoro, and then play them in Coley, and that's another episode. It's kind of a long one, but you can do it all in one. Right. Then go to Likoro, explore, talk to them, flip some light stones. That's one episode. Train accuracy. That's one episode. Play Likoro and Coley. That's just that Coley match is an episode. And then apparently, according to BSO1, Pokoro and Takoro opened up all at once. So if I want to be in keeping with tradition, I don't have to separate them. I can then train strategy and train strength before I play either one in Coley. So I do an episode where I then go to Pokoro, talk with the people, train strategy, and buy a bunch of Coley balls. Then I have another one where I go to Takoro, talk with the Matoran, interact with them. Then I have another one where I train strength. Then I have one where I play, and then I just finish it off, right? I do the last 2 Coley matches and all the crystals in one go. So you'll notice a pattern there. Like Monog, Templar released this game instrumentally, right? So, in installments is what I'm trying to say. So the first thing they did, they allowed people to do, I think it was like June 23rd or so. They had everything you could do in Gakuro, except Nokama would never come back. So, as it stands right now, Nokama comes back after about 18 minutes after the start of the game. But Nokama would never come back. So, you had all the time in the world, at least until they updated the game, to make a Coley stick and deliver it to Maku. That was really your main job, and she would give you 100 widgets. Then, they updated the game such that Nokama would come back. You couldn't go to Onukoro yet, but Nokama would come back, and now you could play Onukoro and Coley, and now you could talk to the Onupu and Tepu who were camped outside. And then you had an 18-minute time limit before Nokama came back. Now, you could always, if you knew to do this, which you probably wouldn't, just close out of the game and come back before the cutscene where Nokama comes back is over, and then the timer would restart. So you don't really truly have a 18-minute time limit. Besides, if you got to the game early, you'd add no time limit. So, in my opinion, it's not really cheating to use techniques like just starting the game over to complete the Coley stick in that time limit, because that's a really good deal. That's a lot of widgets for relatively little effort. Unless you're flipping 500 widgets, 500 Coley balls, then of course, that's even better. But just to make sure that not only what I was doing wasn't cheating in my eyes, but wasn't cheating on anybody's eyes, to make the Let's Play as above board as possible, I did multiple takes and managed to actually get that done in 18 minutes. The challenge in there comes primarily from Matoran that you rely on being in their huts when you want them to, not being there. And so the final take where I got it done, basically everybody was in their huts when I needed them to be, by random chance. And so I managed to finish the Coley stick on time, and that's what I'm actually playing off of now. That's why my inventory has 106 widgets in it. The other 6 widgets come from Kai. He gives you some widgets for giving him some flax. That kind of raises the question whether or not there's a Tamatoran somewhere named Nia. I don't know if I've ever found one. But anyway, it got opened up and it came out in installments. And so there's certain installments you could only do so much in the game at the time. So you could play Kokoro in Coley before you had the opportunity to train strength, accuracy, and strategy. But as as more pieces of the game were released, if you still hadn't progressed beyond Kokoro, then you could start being able to train strategy, strength, and accuracy, and then use those to play against Kokoro. But there's this time period where if you wanted to beat each team in Coley, you had to do it without training the future Coley skills. Now, Pokoro and Takoro opened up at the same time, so you can train strength. So there's this tradition you do when you play this game. It's not required, it's kind of tradition. Where you only train the Coley skills you could train, only go to the locations you could, before you play each team in Coley, that you could win that program most recently came out. And of course, Pokoro and Takoro came out at the same time, so you can train strength before playing Pokoro, and you're still following this tradition. But you can't train strength before playing Likoro, for example, which makes the Likoro match rather challenging, because strength is a very important skill to have. Otherwise, your balls don't make it to the goal. You have to get real close to the goal to shoot. So that's what I'm going to play it in that style, as you may have heard in this rundown. And then after I'm done with this game, What comes next will hopefully be Quest for the Toa or Matoran Adventures, that Game Boy Advance game. That's the idea. That's what comes next. I said at the end of my Legend of Matanui alpha that I was going to do Meenul. However, whoever made Meenul took it down. Probably in conjunction with the discontinuing of Flash, because you need Flash to play Meenul. So, and Biomedia, they apparently contacted the Biomedia project. They didn't answer their BZ Power DMs. They finally saw them, and then they're like, "Oh no!" So they contacted him, but they haven't got. I don't know how that one's working. So you may not be able to play Meenul ever again. I managed to experience Meenul while it existed. So I didn't miss out on Meenul, but I might miss out on making a Let's Play of Meenul. So the people who did make a Let's Play of Meenul, and there are people who have, you are lucky, and you beat me. All the games I've played so far, mostly I've played before, so I haven't done any blind Let's Plays yet. This Let's Play, Mnog 2, I've beat many, many times before. So this is like a practiced or polished playthrough. Vnog, I've played many times before, so that was a practiced and polished, though albeit quite silly, playthrough. The Legend of Matanui I had not played several times before, and there are actually some segments I hadn't beaten yet. When I played it. So that was some first try stuff going on there. But I still hadn't messed around with it, right? That was just my first, especially with the beta, my first complete playthrough with from start to finish, finishing every area in order. When I do Quest for the Toa, I've only seen like short segments of gameplay of it. I haven't seen any extended segments of gameplay, nor have I played any of it. I only really know what the concept is, and that was Takua, the story premise, and that was Takua traveling around the island finding the Toa stones that the Toa Metru left behind, but we didn't do that yet. They had to make a backstory for him, so that he could put the Toa stones in some suva, I don't know which one, to summon the Toa to Matanui. Which is something that wasn't very clear about the 2001 storyline. They just said the Toa fell from the sky because it was just time for them to do so. They didn't. Oftentimes you wouldn't see the explanation from Quest of the Toa that actually, by collecting all the Toa stones, Takua was able to summon the Toa. And then in 2008 they decided to make some convoluted explanation for that, and that is, as soon as the Great Spirit fell asleep, the Coderex launched the Toa Mata in their pods to the island of Matanui to try to convince the Matoran there to return to Matanui, such that they could, the Matanui robot could function again, right? Because for some reason the Matoran have to be in Matanui and do the things they do in Matanui in order for the Great Spirit robot to work. So when they left, that created a big problem. So it created Matanui to be the place where there was the robot was the most broken. And so the Coderex said, okay, this is where the robot's broken, we need to send the Toa there. And they sent them down to Matanui where the Matoran were, but it malfunctioned. And so they didn't actually go to Matanui. They just sort of ended up floating in the ocean for 1,000 years. So they did fall from the sky, but they fell from the sky 1,000 years ago. Technical truth, very deceptive. And they just kind of floated in the ocean around Matanui until Takua found all the Toa stones and summoned all the canisters to Matanui. If you're not really up on the lore on that. And then, after that's Mnog. Hopefully I don't mess up Mnog. As far as the games are concerned, I've played Mnog. I haven't been able to get the platforming game from 2002 to work. Not on any of my. It's called Battle for Matanui. On all my computers so far, I haven't been able to get it to work. I don't know if it has something to do with graphics drivers. I think it uses Adobe Shockwave, which means it shouldn't. Windows versions beyond Windows XP? I'm not sure. I don't think so, because it didn't work on my XP box either. So that game is really a mess to get to work. I may not be able to ever get it to work. So because I've never been able to get it to work, I never played it, nor have actually seen any footage of it played, nor do I know anything about the mechanics. So that's something that's completely like blind to me. I have played through the first. Oh, she's not here. The how much has been done of the fan game. Matanui Online 2.5, 1.5, the Borak Swarms. And I'd be happy to do that one. That one's on the list. So that was on the list. And in 2003 we have this game, which I'm doing early because of its. Oh, even though I like it, I agree it's very. I don't know who I'm agreeing with. It's not very conducive to Let's Play, so it's something I want to get over and done with when it comes to Let's Plays. We check the recording status, still going. Then we have Bionicle the Game GBA, which is a meme. And I've seen snippets of gameplay footage of it, but then again I haven't tried to play it myself, so that would be a kind of blindish gameplay. And hopefully it will be quite funny. Hopefully. Then we have Bionicle the Game for console and PC, which I have seen a lot of gameplay footage of. In fact, the whole thing, but I never actually tried to play any of it. So it's definitely not blind. It's one of those things where I've seen it all played. I know all the tips and tricks. I never actually tried to play it myself. Then we have that shooting discs game, Stop the Morbuzak. Yeah, that will be stupid. And then there's something called, there's a game in 2000, there's something called Bionicle Battle Zone, which I don't know what it is. Stuff like Bionicle, like Mask of Light mini games. Anyway, then there's Maze of Shadows, which apparently is also kind of funny. I've read the book Maze of Shadows, so I know the entire plot of Maze of Shadows, but I haven't actually played the Game Boy game, Maze of Shadows. I've seen snippets of the gameplay of it. Man, it's hard to get that one. And in 2006, we have a bunch of, like, a whole collage of various small games. I already did the Paraka animations, and it was really stupid. But you have Paraka Attack, which is going to create a lot of practicing, because I don't see what the point of doing Paraka Attack is if you can't get the Island Master Award. Just, like, no point. There's Return Escape, which I'm going to try to do without doing any, spacebar spamming, which will be kind of difficult, because I've never been able to get through Hakon's boss without spacebar spamming. And I've, not in recent history been able to get through Vazok's boss without spacebar spamming either. I somehow did it way back when I was a kid, but I can't do it recently. And then you have Anika Assault, where I have to beat Orion's speed record. Somehow. It's actually not that hard, because his record isn't that good. So I had to do two of those, one that's really fast and one that's really thorough, to see if I could do it fast. You have Free the Band Island Investigation, and which is going to be a nightmare, and then Free the Band, I don't know, the one where you shoot, whatever that one is. And then we have the Baraki platform game, which is okay. Then you have that Mystica, that Command the Mari game, for which in the download version, Joller Mari's game doesn't work. So you can't actually finish it in the version that the, what's it called? Biomedia Project has preserved. But I can do what I can. There's the Fantolka game, which is just a bunch of mini-games. It's not very fun, not very good. There's the Mystica game, which was this custom racing map game, which is not very good. Then you have Glatorian Arena, which will be very time-consuming, but you can, do all those battles and get it done. There's 3 iterations of it, and the first one has something called the Spikeball game, which is very difficult and very similar to Koli, something to struggle with. And then lastly, you have Agori Defender, which I'm not looking forward to playing that either. It's a very lame tower defense game that isn't as good as other tower defense games. Biomedia Project preserved Hero Factory Breakout, because at least they have some files from it, because I managed to find them on their website somehow, even though it's not readily accessible from their front, UI. But, you had to Google it or something, and Google managed to bypass in. But that's just another thing. And then when I'm done with those, I'm just talking about my future plans because I have nothing else left to talk about, and I'm still not done with this rigging yet. Time to go on to non-Bionicle games. And then finally, when I go on to non-Bionicle games, maybe people will actually watch some of this stuff. So stuff like Never 7, for example. Because I really like mysteries. So, mysteries are great. But that's a long way off into the future. Okay, how much flax do I have now? 306. Okay. Wait, do I only need 500, right? Oh, I'm getting close. Talk about some Bionicle and me, because why not? Because I'm still making this rigging and not done yet. The first Bionicle set I got was, Galak, the, blue Bow-Rock, and I don't have the pieces anymore for stupid reasons. Don't lose Bionicle pieces. They're not going to make any more, right? The scarcity is insane. Don't do that. So, shame I don't have any of the pieces anymore. I have 3 Rakshi from 2003. All those pieces are still intact, I believe. A 2003 Makuta, and all the pieces are still intact there. A Lecon with the, what's the rhino called? Kaikanalo from 2004. The torso, Lecon's torso is split at the bottom. And that's a very common problem with the Metru torsos. I also have a Winua Metru, and his torso is not split because the way they built him is different, such that there's other things preventing bending in the torso besides just the bottom axle hole. So the way you construct Winua Metru, he doesn't have that breaking torso issue like the other Metru do. And then I have a Winua, what's it called? Winua Hortica, and who cares about Winua Hortica? These are not because I was really into the Earth characters, really. I'd rather prefer green or red ones. It's just that, that's what I could get my hands on. From 2005. I don't have anything from 2006. Yeah. I don't even have a Brutaka, which is kind of sad. I have all of the Mari from 2007. Lime green joints on Holly are a thing. I have replaced joints, but I mean, a lot of the joints aren't original. I have all of the Baraki from 2007 because that was, in my opinion, the best wave canister sets ever. And yes, Elex joints not preserved. That's the way that goes. I also have a Maxilos from 2007. I don't have a Gadunka or a, what's it called? Hydraxon. So I don't have a lot of the greatest sets of all time from 2007. 2007 is probably the greatest year of Bionicle as far as sets. Yes, the Mari were a letdown, but the Titans were very good. The villains were very good. And the Matoran build from that year was the best Matoran build. And that's it. So just lots of 2007. Not because I was a particularly big 2007 fan. That was just the year I managed to get a hold of a lot of sets. No G2 though, because as I ranted in my episode of Anog called Chapter 2 Cleaning, Not into CCBS. Again, I haven't really tried it, but looking at it just doesn't suit me because it's like each piece is just the same, but as every other piece, but longer or shorter. And not longer or shorter, it's connection points, right? It's not like a Lego brick. It comes in different sizes, and they're all just the same thing but different sizes. And I'm really bothered by this because with other different sized Lego bricks, you have different amounts of connection points, right? I'm very into Technic. I like Technic sets. Different Technic parts have different links and a different amount of connection points. CCBS shells, they're different links, but they have the same amount of connection points despite being different links. So they're basically the same part, but slightly different. Lego wanted to make their construction like a system, like their Technic or their system, right? They wanted to make it more systematic, but they didn't make it like that because they made just something not as good, and it doesn't really appeal. And it's, I don't know. As I said, it like makes me think of Zoobs. The shiny colored, the transparent pieces though look really good in CCBS for some reason because the shells are so flat and thin that you don't get a lot of texture, and the texture is what spoils the transparency. So that's one thing redeemable about CCBS. Yeah, as I said in that cleaning rant, I was really into the whole idea of how they had to make these gearboxes, how Lego made these gearboxes, how they made these parts that they had a certain design language or aesthetic to them, and integrated to that aesthetic were these Technic connection points at these kind of arbitrary places, and somehow these arbitrary places allowed for you to put gears and they would fit nicely, like these torso pieces, like the Bata torso, the Metro torso, and yet still managed to kind of also have this design language to them. And it was that characteristic of the pieces that made me like the pieces as much as I did. Very much into that, integrating that design into pieces that had other functions. So the appealingness of Bionicle parts was how the pieces both had a function and a form together in the same piece. If you make a system where the functionality comes from one type of pieces, the bones, the shape comes from other types of pieces, the shells, the outer sort of layers come from other kind of pieces, the add-ons, then it's not, the feel you would think would be quite a bit different. Now I've heard people say the feel is the same. Well, I mean, you're going to get excited anyway because it's Bionicle, but I can't imagine how. I mean, I look at it and go, well, this has got to feel quite a bit different. It also doesn't really make any sense when the greebles are in an add-on, because the greebles are part of the mechanics of how the biomechanical beam works. You can't just, that's not a decoration, that's the function. Right, so it's supposed to depict function. So when you make a part that's an add-on that kind of adds on functionality to the character it's supposed to represent, it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Which is kind of why the Uniters from 2016 G2 didn't really look good, because I agree they didn't really look good because they're trying to put the greebles back in, but they were tacking them on top of CCBS. It just really wasn't working very well. It's better if you're going to do something to commit to it, right? So the Masters looked better because I didn't really like CCBS, but at least they were committing to CCBS and not trying to mix things up and make things that made no sense. Never was ever bothered by clashing textures, probably because I didn't walk. Because I was told by my kindergarten teacher, do not take apart Bionicle sets, because the sockets will get looser over time if you do. Yes, my kindergarten teacher had Bionicle sets in the classroom. Shout out to Mrs. Oosterbond. I actually don't really, I don't even know if she's still alive now. I don't live there anymore, so if you figure out where she used to teach kindergarten, you're not going to find me. yeah, Lego would not be very happy with that set. Don't take them apart. That's the whole point. Like, nope, because the ball joint system just was not reliable enough for that, and she was right. Of course, it got even worse in the later years, but even in the early years, it just wasn't really reliable enough for mucking. Requires a lot of bricklinking to do a lot of bionicle mucking. And so when LJ was afraid to do his quote-unquote remix reviews and rebuild his sets into combo models, he was rightfully so. I would be also very afraid to do that. Probably would not do that. I'd just buy a bunch of more copies. So like I have enough sets to have the originals and the combos built at the same time, and leftovers and combos would just go in this big mocking bin. Be like, but I hear that even like 2008, like the 2008 and 2009 sets, even if you just left them on the shelf and never touched them or ever moved them, like they would seize up and they could break anyway. Like even if you didn't take them apart, the parts could still break. They were that bad. I only bought sets up to 2007. I didn't really buy them because I was a kid. I had no money, but whatever. So I didn't. The only parts breaking I really experienced was by 2002 that Bow Rock and lime rejoints. Do I have enough heart? Yeah, I have enough of that. I just need a lot of Cory shells. Is that how it's pronounced? I don't know, I don't have any. I never watched Minogue 2 with Meso. I just figured that watching somebody else play Minogue 2 would be so boring I didn't even try. So, especially Meso's tendency to cheat. I don't know if he ever cheated in that or not. It's like, why are you doing it if you wouldn't even watch it yourself? I don't know. Because I want to. Because I like this game. I figure that if I record gameplay of something, right, then I don't have to ever play it ever again. It's like, puts a stamp on it. It's like, finished. Because I don't have to play it ever again anyway. I'm just waiting on cowrie shells. I got 12. How many cowrie shells or how many flax? I need 134 more flax. Well, I'll go spin the ones I have while these regrow. Of course, recording all this footage, I'm starting to kind of face the reality of when you make how these YouTubers do these things. Like, you end up buying a lot of hard drives if you want to store a backup of all this footage, because the footage takes up a lot of data. I know some people probably just, they post their stuff on YouTube and then they just don't back it up. But then it's like, what if YouTube takes it down or something? Or, you know, in the future or something like that. You don't want to lose it then, do you? Besides, YouTube compresses it. So, like, you want to preserve the original, don't you? I don't know. But I'm going to run out of space on my computer very fast for that. So I'm going to be buying lots of terabytes. Find cheap storage. I don't know why I'm cutting these. I really need cowrie shells. That's what I need. I'm just like into that rhythm from the Collie Stick episode. Just keep cutting down the plants, causing like poaching, causing mass extinction, conquering nature. Grow, baby, grow. Okay, I'll go use these. Well, I guess I can't because she's not in her hut, so. Onukoro and Gakoro, only two Koros, where they did this, like, people realistically not being in their hut all the time thing. Eventually, Templar just got lazy and stopped with that. Which is good because it's obnoxious. Just drags things out needlessly. Okay. Is Amaya done? Whatever she's doing. Good. I should have cut the plants. Okay, still haven't paid attention to how many cowrie shells I need. This one grows fast. The speed seems to kind of randomly generate, so some instances of this game you get a fast-growing cowrie shell, and sometimes you just don't. Let's see, less than 100 more, only 82 more. Okay, is this enough? So you got 34 of those, 95 of those. I'm pretty sure I have enough plants. 16. Up. Takes a lot of Harakiki plants, apparently. Gee, that's tight. Okay. Still have 52 to go, then. Time to get another batch. This is getting pretty long, but we're into the final 100, so it should be over soon. I, of course, have obviously ran out of things to say. I'm saving the big guns for later, as usual. Well, since I don't have anything else to say, I had this thought once. Right? Video games have progressive nature usually. Like, the poster child for this is Cookie Clicker, where it's just like you keep doing it and you just kind of keep getting more of it, right? Well, think about money, right? People want money because you can buy things with it, and people want things that you can buy with money, right? So, they want the money to get there. Well, eventually you have so much money that you can buy anything you could ever want. But there are people with certain kind of personalities that, despite that, they just kept wanting more and more money. Because, like, they ran out of ways to achieve, right? So the only thing they could do is get more money. Because they didn't know what else to do. So it's kind of perpetual cycle of getting more and more money for no purpose with it whatsoever. Now think about this. Why do people go to the gym and lift? Well, it's because when you lift weights at a gym, your body will adapt to it, right? It'll actually make more muscle mass so that you can lift even heavier weights. You just keep doing it and you just keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger. But the interesting thing with, like, weights is that they tend to sort of asymptotically level at some points. You don't just get arbitrarily strong. So people lift weights almost as if, like, how much they can bench is how much they're worth. It's a progressive game. Right, so, like, I look at this and I go, okay, so money is the same as video games, is the same as going to the gym and lifting. And as somebody who likes money and likes lifting and likes video games, I go, okay. Man, idols. They all look the same, don't they? However, I don't know if people really would want more and more idols. What I want's happening is not happening. Let me, like, go make some more idols. It's almost like you could get addicted to learning in the same way. Like, you can get addicted to, like, physics or something. Just because, like... But, like... I don't know. I'll get hooked on anything. Anything that I can progress in. To good or bad. Like, people don't go, you're lifting weights. That's bad. Right, they'll go like, it's something that if, you would become a video game addict, you can go lift weights. And then your dad, who's like, video games are bad, is going to be like, oh, you're good now because you're lifting weights instead of playing video games. Right, and it still satisfies that progressive thing where it's like you just keep leveling up, but in a different way. Right, you can go to school and, like, level up with your grades and your degrees, right? Or, like, with, your physics or your whatever. And people don't judge you as much, right? If you do video games, then you get judged. weird life advice from random people on the internet. Do your progressive stuff in ways that you'll get less judged. Or just do what you want, because I won't judge you. I mean, I will, but not because you play video games. Only 18 to go. Yeah, when I say progressive, I don't mean anything having to do with, like, ideologies. I'm talking about you just kind of, like, progressive overload, right? You just kind of do it, and then the number goes up, and goes up, and it goes up, as you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's like, my number's bigger than you means I'm better than you. Right? That kind of thing. Only got 8 out of that. We need 10 more. Or I need, you don't need it. The game doesn't forget that you have the sickle equipped, but sometimes your sprite doesn't have the sickle while you still have it. Still have it equipped. To go and steal Kai's plants again. He just has like this pot of sand with Haruki plants, like he planted them himself, their own personal plants, so we just kind of walk up there and just cut them down. Maybe he grows them for us, because he does need the flax, doesn't he? Of course, when I'm recording it, this happens to be late 2020, which, if you're not privy to what happened in late 2020, it's kind of hard to lift weights right now. So, that's why I'm sitting here playing this video game, because, you know, it's really, for various reasons, it's very hard to lift weights. It's also very hard to get a graphics card. I don't know how relevant that's gonna... It's like, it's easy to not spend money, because, well, you can't find things to spend it on that you can actually buy. Okay, this should be the last of this. Hopefully, that's enough flax. Hopefully, Kai will be home. Kai is, like, infamous for not being home. need to go. Does Kai even have a home? Like, what is he referring to? There was an Ninjago episode called Home. They said the home was a Destiny's bounty, but like then say that his home gets destroyed all the time. Ah, guess what? Kai's not home. How inconvenient. Let's talk to this young lady for these are very old ladies, all of them. Get some sailcloths. You can sell these for 10 widgets a piece sometimes, so I just made 50 widgets, essentially. There's Kai. So I'd like some string. Let's see, how many... I want to turn it all into string, right? So 50 string. Okay, cool. And then we want to do some rope, so I want 10 ropes, right? So 50 string for 10 ropes. Blimey, that's a lot of rope. Apparently Kai is British. Blimey, that's a lot of rope. Okay. Goodbye. Apparently to be British is to be a sailor. And they're not that wrong. Okay. Ah, now she's gone. Gee. Ten ropes and 5 nets, right? Oh, I didn't convert all those to strings. Never mind. Still have flax that needs to be stringed. Like some string. 50 string. There you go. Doesn't say blimey, that's a lot of string. Okay. Ah. Ah, there she is. Okay. Doesn't really help to go somewhere instead of waiting. It's just, you know, I want some action happening on my screen. I'd like a net. I'd like another net. And another net. And a fourth net. And a fifth net. And a rigging. To put in my hyperspace arsenal. Cool, got it. And this will get me a lot of widgets someplace other than Gakoro. Because it's a ripoff in Gakoro. So, done with the rigging. So, that ends that. I'm going to start off next episode with some actual plot. And less busy work. Bye.